From religion to wrestling, gumbo to grits, politics to poetry, and all things Southern in between, this is Take on the South. Produced by the Institute for Southern Studies and hosted by the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of South Carolina, Take on the South examines the highs and lows of the American South, examines the truths and fictions of the country's most distinctive region, and picks the brains of some of its most accomplished students. To understand the South, you need to take it on, and that's what we'll be doing. Join us as we take on the South. It's family weekend at the University of South Carolina, a time when friends, parents, siblings get to see, up close and personal, the fine university where one of their family members studies, and the university happily opens its door to greet them. To this end, we at Take on the South in the Institute for Southern Studies thought it might be fun and enlightening to have an open mic day, a day when anyone visiting the university, or for that matter any students, could pop by the studio to sit a while and tell us their Southern stories. Consider this an open Southern porch. Well, we just chat. Let's see who comes in and what they have to say. Good morning, sir. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much.
All right, what's your name?
So my name is Arman Ibrahimi. I'm more of a science guy, but I'm very open to explore everything.
All right, so you're a student at the University of South Carolina. You're in my class, actually, aren't you?
Yes.
Let's be candid.
Very
just up
class.
front, you're one of my 380 students, and you always sit to the front and ask interesting questions.
Yes.
All right, so you're a science guy. What's your major?
I'm a biology major. I'm on the pre-dental track.
Okay.
I actually took the DAT, it's called dental admission test recently, and I did very good. But after I took that, I was relieved. So I was like, maybe I should go around and try different things. I'm taking a history class. I'm taking a computer class. I'm taking a dog training class. So I'm exploring things.
And now you're in the Institute for Southern Studies, having a chat.
Yes.
All right. So where are you from originally?
So I was born in Florida. I have a very interesting background. I was born in Florida, but when I was 4, we moved back to Iran because my dad, families, everyone are back home. We went back to Iran, and I lived there till I was 4th grade. Then I came here. I went to Georgia. In my 4th and 5th grade, half of the 4th grade, I was in Georgia, Atlanta. Then we went back to Iran again, the second half of my 4th grade.
All right.
Then I went back to Iran. Again, for my 5th grade, I came here again. The half of my 5th grade, I was in Atlanta again. And the other half, I went back to Iran. So I was like going back and forth a lot.
All right.
I was moving a lot. My dad, he got his bachelor's from Michigan. He went to Virginia. He moved to Florida. I was in Iran. I was in north of the Iran, then south of the Iran. Then I came to... Somehow I ended up in South Carolina.
Somehow, isn't that true? We always somehow end up in
Yes.
South Carolina. All right, let me pick your brains a bit. You've toggled your entire life between Iran, the United States, but especially the American South. So I hear Florida, Georgia, South Carolina.
Yes.
What is it about the American South? I mean, what are your impressions of it as somebody who's not born here but has spent a lot of time here, a bit like myself? What are your impressions of the South?
So... I've seen that the system in here is it's based on honesty.
Okay.
It's a lot based on honesty. So one experience I had, so back home, whenever we took an exam, if there was something that I think I did right on the exam, but they took points off, I had to come up with an argument so I can defend myself. But when I started 10th grade in Orangeburg, South Carolina. There was a math class. After the exam, I saw that I did something right. So I prepared myself for the argument. I was like, I need to get this point back.
Right.
So my approach was very aggressively to the professor, and he was very calm. He was like, okay, you can get your points back. Calm down. What is it with you? I was like, oh. And it hit me. I was like, people are so calm. System is based on honesty. They trust each other more.
Interesting.
In here, and I think it comes. I think the history is coming because of the fact that there are less businessmen in South. I guess I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not sure what I'm trying to say, but in North or even other countries, people are competing more with each other. Like in New York, if you go, it's less based on honesty because I traveled to New York as well. But in South, they're more honest, more calm.
All right. Okay, so there's a more aggressive atmosphere in the north. You know, people are competing and they're fighting.
Competition. It's a bit more because of the competition. I think.
Right. So in a way, you know, from what I'm hearing, is that you had that mentality when you were trying to defend your grades, and then you come here and it's a calmer, more paced, sedate. And do you like that, by the way? Do you find that attractive?
I'm a very calmer person right now. I was, in my family, I was known as that angry guy.
Okay.
But now, so my sister lives in Iran. She came back, and when she saw me, she was like, "You're different. You're very calm right now."
All right. So the University of South Carolina has calmed you down, right?
Not just University of South Carolina, it's South.
The South, and it's allowed you to focus and probably be more productive, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So what do you think of Southern food cuisine? Do you like Southern
food? You mean U.S. by itself? Or?
Well, I'm just thinking of stuff that you find here a lot that you might not find elsewhere. Or do you not think of it in terms of Southern food? Do you just think of it as American food?
So,
because I know the Iranian cuisine is extremely rich, right, and very varied and interesting and delicious.
Yes.
Have you had to kind of downgrade your food expectations being here, or have you found something that you like?
I actually got I gained weight when I came here.
Right, yeah. Well, that's the portion size, isn't it? I mean, American portions are huge.
But I don't know about the history, because if you think about it, if you ask an American what is their traditional food, they would say hamburger or barbecue, but hamburger came from Hamburg, from Germany. So I don't know if it actually has a history behind it. But I personally love my own cuisine way more.
Okay.
But again, I'm open. Like, for example, the barbecue in here, it's great.
Yeah.
I eat pork, I eat everything.
Yeah.
But whenever I tried the pork barbecue in here, that was the first time I tried it, because we don't have that.
And you like it?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah. I'll try it again. But again, Persian cuisine is something else.
I know. I get you. I understand. Do you see yourself moving from the South when you graduate, or do you think you'll stay here?
Yes, I think I'm moving, because for my high school I was in here. For my undergrad I was in here. But as I told you, I move a lot and I'm very open. So I think my dream place is Pennsylvania. I want to go north and live there too, because I only traveled there for like a week. Mm-hmm. And so I want to try different places.
I think that's
so. My sister was in here. She moved to Idaho right now.
Oh, all right.
She said like west, like Midwest is different than South and then North.
Sure.
So I want to go around.
Do you think you'll ever go back to Iran permanently?
Iran? Well, I go back and visit though.
Okay.
I go back every year or 2 years to visit, but
you don't expect to go back. I mean, I get it. It's the same with me in England. I'm not going.
It's kind of hard to deal with.
Yeah, I gotcha.
But here's what my dad always says.
Okay.
It's home.
Yeah.
It's home.
Yeah.
And that's all I can say about Iran.
I understand.
Yeah.
All right. Well, these are supposed to be quick 10, 15-minute chats, and that was really enlightening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we really appreciate you. Oh, we are happy to have you. Thanks for popping by the studio.
Yeah, of course.
We have a couple of new guests who have just dropped by, and I want you to introduce yourselves, please.
Jessica McLaughlin.
Hello, Jessica.
I'm Caitlin McLaughlin.
All right.
This is my mom.
Caitlin and Jessica. All right. So, Caitlin, you're a student here, correct?
Yes, correct.
All right. What's your major, Caitlin?
I'm an English major.
English major?
Yes.
Well, that's quite fitting since I'm interviewing you. Oh, the other English. I get it. All right. And how long have you been here?
This is my second year here.
Your second year?
Yeah.
All right. And Jessica, where are you from originally?
I am from Nashua, New Hampshire.
Are you really?
Yes.
Wow, New Hampshire. I'm from the Old Hampshire, so that works out quite nicely, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
All right. Now, do you live in South Carolina?
No, I don't.
So did you come down?
I just arrived this morning.
Did you really?
Yes.
Well, how interesting. All right, well, let's unpack this a bit.
Okay.
Why South Carolina? Why the University of South Carolina? I mean, to me, it's obvious because I think it's a fabulous university.
Yes.
But as a big country, you're in New Hampshire, of all places. Why here?
For me, it was a location thing. I've only ever lived up north in New Hampshire,
Oh,
And
that's really up north, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
that's north.
it's really cold there, all the time. And so I wanted to experience something different and get out of my comfort zone. And I have always loved traveling to the South, and I love the idea of Southern hospitality, and I feel like I'm living that every day now.
Oh, I love this. Jessica, when she told you, I want to go to the University of
Yes.
South Carolina, you said,
Sure.
oh, okay.
I have a great place to visit, and get out of the cold.
All right, so this is very interesting to me because I teach a class on the Old South, right? And it's about 40 students. And I always ask them at the beginning of each class, who's not from the South? And about, 50% of hands go up. I said, well, where are you from? Like 90% of the 50% from New Jersey.
I was just going to say New Jersey.
Okay.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
now I understand the push factor. New Jersey has a state, 9 million people.
Yeah.
It can't possibly educate every teenager. So I get the push factor. But why South Carolina? It could be Georgia or Florida, right? Or it could be Virginia or North Carolina. Why South Carolina?
I think you said you liked the area, and then it had something to do with your major, and
Yeah, I mean,
there was a few
there was
reasons.
a lot of things, I guess, that played into it. I've visited Charleston every single year for a long time, so I've always loved the state itself.
Gotcha.
And I guess kind of what it stands for. And I like to think it's Southern enough, but not too Southern, where I'm...
Ooh, that's interesting. I want to talk about that a bit.
And I have a twin sister back home, and she goes to school in Boston, in the city, and we're living completely different college lives. So it's really cool to see how vast they are, because we both go to two very large universities. But they're
Where did she go? BU?
BU,
Okay, that's a big school in Boston.
But they're
But it's urban.
very
Yes.
urban, but they're entirely different.
Yeah.
And there was something about it I just loved. There's palm trees in my front yard, so I can't complain.
You can't complain about that, can you? Interestingly enough, one of the reasons, the pull factor for the folks from New Jersey, at least according to them in my class, is that they vacationed here, just like you did. They saw Charleston or they went to Myrtle Beach, and they might have a condo, their parents might have a condo here, and they kind of dipped into South Carolina and then realized they quite liked it. And then oddly, lots of them end up staying. Do you anticipate staying, Caitlin?
Yeah,
Do you really?
I do. I plan on getting my master's in 5 years instead of having to do the extra.
Oh, right, like the MAT or
staying for my
something?
staying through the program, and I have no intentions on leaving. The only place I would want to leave to would be to London.
Good choice, I might add. However, I think your mum and dad would be a bit upset because it's very expensive. I mean,
Yes,
it's colossally
it is very
expensive.
expensive.
And one of the advantages of South Carolina is a relatively low cost of living, right? I mean, you get a lot for your buck here.
It's amazing.
You do.
We were just talking about that this morning.
So she's got an apartment. She lives by herself, which she loves, and so she's here. We have that 12-month kind of lease, so she's here through next summer. So I think her intent is to stay.
Jessica, have you been here in the summer?
Yes,
Oh.
it's really it's quite warm.
Quite toasty might be the word.
Yeah, the humidity. But it's bearable. I don't mind the heat. We do actually get humidity and heat in New Hampshire, but it's it's a bit toasty.
A bit toasty. That it certainly is. So let me unpack this just a bit. You said it's southern enough, but not too southern.
Yeah.
All right. Can you tell me what that means?
Be nice.
I'll be nice.
That's okay.
I like to think that, South Carolina is the furthest you can go without it just kind of turning into the traditional Southern stereotypes, I want to say.
Okay.
I feel like a lot of people can have almost negative stereotypes about the South.
Sure.
And I feel like South Carolina is kind of on that border of you get what you wanted from the South, but I feel like you're not crossing that line of being considered like the boondocks of the South, right? Even this past spring, we visited Low Country out in Beaufort area, and even experiencing that is very different from Columbia. But I still wouldn't even call that like the deep South, I guess. I mean, we have family in Baton Rouge that we've gone and visited. I have family in Georgia, Texas. and that's a completely different experience than it is being here in Columbia.
So you have family ties in the South, is what I'm
Correct,
hearing.
yes.
Georgia, Louisiana.
Yeah, Louisiana's a lot of family in Louisiana.
Interesting. All right, so there's always been a kind of whiff of the South.
Yeah.
And you just ended up... By the way, I think you're not wrong about all of that.
Yeah.
There's a kind of happy medium, and South Carolina has that feel to it, doesn't
Yeah.
it? So, Jessica, I'm taking it you won't be leaving New Hampshire to relocate to South Carolina?
Was
it tempting?
It's very tempting. I would love to live here in the winter. I've entertained that.
Yeah,
or that thought of it.
Yeah, it's nice.
Now that I've been here a few times,
Yeah.
it is really nice.
And you'd be close to me.
Yeah, of course. But I still love New England. You can't beat that. So.
Well, Old England, maybe, but I don't know. No, I left for a reason. All right, I get it. I'm not going to go up against New England. Have you toured the university yet today?
Well, I have before today,
Okay.
but like I said, we just got here, so we just. This was our first stop, so I guess this was the place to be. I
Yeah.
guess, according to Caitlin.
Good choice, by the way. So let me just explore a bit. Are you a fan of Southern cuisine?
That's a great question. Yes and no.
Okay.
I just tried grits for the first time last week.
And?
Depends on where you get them from.
Oh my! This sounds like a Southern defense of grits,
Right,
by the way.
It so is.
But tell them, you.
I work at Hall's Chop House, right on the corner of Main and Gervais.
I know it well. Yes.
And so I like to think that they have a mix of Southern cuisine and just regular steakhouse cuisine.
And expensive steaks, yeah.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Very
Yes,
expensive
I like to
steaks.
think I have some perks because I work there. Yeah. But the grits there are really good, and so now I feel like I have this really high expectation that all the grits I'm going to eat from now on are going to taste that good.
That is not going to happen. You know that.
But like my roommates last year, they would always ask me if I wanted casseroles and stuff, and I would kindly say no. I don't think I'm entirely into that. I'll have some grits every once in a while. Other than that, no. I'm not a sweet tea fan.
Really?
No.
Jessica, how about you? Sweet tea? Can't do it?
No.
Just unsweetened. If you have it.
How about no tea?
How about no hot tea?
No.
Good Lord. What
Coffee.
do you drink?
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you do up in New Hampshire? I guess hot drinks, right?
Coffee, yeah.
Okay, I understand. Well, I get the grits tension entirely because I'm very mixed on it myself.
Yeah.
And largely because I just didn't know what I was eating when I first came. And
It's very weird.
Texture.
Yeah, well,
People always ask me how I can compare it, and I'm like, think of runny oatmeal, maybe, like chopped up oatmeal.
That's not a bad description,
Right?
actually. Yeah, and I love. I mean, everybody defends, and my wife defends grits. She's like, well, they're really good if you put butter, cheese, and shrimp in them. I was like, well, what's not good if you put butter, cheese, and shrimp? Like, this is not an adequate defense of a dish. What about Southern music? Or do you see it as Southern? Is there?
You like
I
country
do
music.
like country music. You do not like country music, but I like country music.
There you go.
I don't know if I would consider it Southern. I like to think of it more as a genre of the way that the music is produced and played, and not so much of where it. I understand it was originated here, but I guess I wouldn't consider it being country because of the location.
Gotcha.
Gotcha. But I do enjoy it. I do.
Oh, good. And you, Jessica? You're not really.
No, not a big country fan.
I
Country music
I
fan.
just got her a shirt to wear to tomorrow's
Oh my
football game
gosh.
that has a bunch of cowgirl boots on
Yeah.
it. She's very not happy with me right now.
Are you going to the game?
We
tomorrow?
are, yeah.
we are.
Me too.
I'm very excited. Very excited.
Have you been to one
We have
before?
not
No.
been to a game.
Oh.
All last year we did not make it to a
You're
game.
in for a treat. You know
Yeah.
that because we will win.
I hope so.
I say that with a
Yeah.
heavy dose of
Yeah. Fingers
hesitance.
crossed.
We watched it on TV last weekend. They started off good.
Well, one of the things about a South Carolina football game, win or lose, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it
and
looks
the
it.
tailgating beforehand is absolutely essential. But what's really exciting is the actual stadium itself.
Yeah.
And we have a very loyal fan base. I mean,
Very. Win or lose.
it will be. That's right. Lord knows we lose. You know, but we sometimes do. We're always good against really good teams.
Yes.
and then
yes.
we lose against the teams we shouldn't lose.
Exactly.
It's a bit like the English soccer team. I was like, what are we doing, right? What are we doing? But you will be enchanted because when they play that 2001
Yes.
thing, it's really emotional. And you've got, 80,000
Right.
people in the
It's
stand.
impressive.
It is. There are more people at football games in the South and college football games than some cities, like it just basically draws everybody in, and there's a genuine community experience, so you'll have a great time.
Yes.
Anything else you want to share about being in the South or visiting the South?
Did you want to talk a little bit about Southern hospitality? Because that's something different for us that we're not, I guess, used to. We talked about it last year when you were here.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a thing here. I think that's just, it's not a term that's used loosely. I think there definitely is, and how polite people are. It's a different vibe up where we are.
I've gotten told that I'm more polite, and I'm like, are you sure? I'm here where like y'all are known, y'all. That I picked that. That's the only thing I picked up.
That's a very good word. That's a very good word. It helps. It does a lot of work.
I sometimes feel like I sound kind of stupid when I say you guys. So
the northern version, I understand.
Yes. So I'm like, y'all are supposed to be like the nice ones. I'm like, I'm from a place where we're horrible at driving, and we're known for kind of not
being aggressive. Yeah, a little aggressive. Yeah.
And I'm like, are you sure?
That's good. You keep being nice.
Yes, I'll keep being polite, but it's definitely. I mean, I've never experienced anybody on campus, specifically on campus, that has not shown me the way that they do things here. Okay. And I appreciate that. So
when you talk about Southern hospitality, it's a kind of atmospheric thing. It's not just like going into a restaurant, it's everything, right?
It's everything. Yes, exactly. I mean, you can get hospitality anywhere. I mean, I work at a restaurant. I've worked at restaurants back home. That hospitality is maintained no matter where you are, in certain, obviously, areas. But I feel like there's something about the South that's just...
People are polite.
Yeah.
Still open doors for you, things like that.
Yeah. Okay. There's like an open-mindedness about it.
Okay, good. So this is all a very positive experience.
Yes, very much. I do like coming here to visit Caitlin. So, yeah.
Well, that's lovely. Jessica, Caitlin, thank you for dropping by. We very much appreciate your insights. Our pleasure entirely. And have a good time at the football game tomorrow.
Yes, thank you. You as well.
All right, thank you. All right, we have another drop-by person on our open mic family day. Welcome. What's your name?
Thank you. My name is Amir Mani Ramadi, but I go by Amir.
Amir.
Yes.
All right, Amir. And where are you from?
I was born in Tehran, in Iran.
Okay.
And I lived there until about 6th grade.
Okay.
Yeah. But
then you came straight here, is that right?
Actually, it's a pretty long story because we lived in Dubai for a little bit.
Right.
Because my dad's company just like wanted him there, so we were like, okay, let's do it. And some more opportunities, we did it. And then there was an opportunity to come to this country, and so we had to go to Turkey for a little bit through their embassies because there's no American embassies in Iran.
Right.
And lived there for like 3-4 months. It was amazing. Best summer of my life. Like Turkey's amazing. Yeah. Dubai's too. Dubai's pretty good.
All right.
And then we came over here in 6th grade.
Did you come straight to South Carolina?
Yeah, like that was the first place we came to.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in Columbia, was it Columbia?
No. We live in Clover, South Carolina.
Okay.
If you know where that is.
Yeah, upstate, yeah.
Yeah, it's close to Lake Wiley or Rock Hill area.
Beautiful area.
It's awesome, yeah.
Okay. And
not much to do.
How old were you when you moved to Clover?
I would say 13. Is that 6th grade?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. And now you're at the University of South Carolina.
Yes.
What's your major?
I'm a bio major.
Bio major. Okay.
Yes.
And do you have an interest in the American South?
I have an interest. First of all, I'm not even like a history guy.
I know.
But you made that class so fun, and I have been sitting in the front just because I'm like, oh my god, what happens next? It's like a story.
It's all stories.
It's like a whole like movie, and like I'm like taking notes. I'm like, no, he didn't. And it's like it was pretty. I'm so interested. And you were like, you should come out. I was like, okay, let's do it.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you came by, and I want to talk to you about your impressions of the South, right? So your formative years, sort of 13, 14, 15, 16, you're introduced, so I mean, you've lived in Tehran, Dubai, Turkey, and then you come straight here. Did you find it to be much of a culture shock when you came here? Or was it a fairly easy landing for you?
Well, what I didn't mention is me and my mom especially, we traveled for fun a lot.
Okay.
So I've been to Russia, India, China, Malaysia.
Wonderful.
I'm probably Armenia. We just been around. So we've seen culture, and like it's not like crazy. Like everyone's different, and when you this is like what I've been preaching about for my 18 years of living. As soon as you leave where you're from, like you've been living for your entire life,
Right.
it will be like oh my God, like I've been in a bubble. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So for me, like when I came here, obviously the United States is very different from what you would think. Actually, one of my friends sent me a really funny video of it wasn't actually funny at all. It was a guy getting beaten in the school, and it was like on a meme page on like Instagram or something, and it was like, oh, this is what you're going into. I was like actually like terrified to come here at first, 'cause I was like, oh my God, there's gonna be like, you know how movies make it seem like there's bullies and stuff.
Sure. But it wasn't like that at all.
When I got here, oh my God, the teachers, specifically the teachers, were so patient. Yeah. They were, I think I got so lucky with that, because it could have been anyone, but my teachers really like took me under their wings and stuff, and it was like, okay, what you need? Like, what do you need help with? Like, 'cause I got to the U.S. and like a week later I was in school. Yeah. It was like the second quarter too, so I was already behind.
Right.
So like all of that mixed together, I was really anxious to like see what I'm about to experience. All these new kids, they probably think I'm weird. I feel weird.
Did they think you were weird or not?
Most definitely. Okay. I mean, it was really funny, because my senior like week, I went back to my middle school to like thank them. I haven't seen these people since I took their class in middle school, and one of my history teachers, she was my favorite teacher ever, Miss Armour. She like, it was crazy seeing her. Like I had like the big my cheeks hurt because I was smiling so hard. She was like, you know, I don't know if you remember this, but the first week of class, when like the teachers came in, like you used to stand up as a show of showing of respect. Really? And I guess I used to do that in Iran, because I completely forgot that was a thing in schools. Like when teachers come in, like you stand up for them.
So you did this in Clover?
I did this in Clover.
Did the other students do it too?
No.
Okay.
No.
Right. So you were standing up.
It was like, what is this kid doing? And it was like little things customs that I was used to. Like our way of showing respect was like when the teacher walks in, you stand up.
Right.
And it was real. I was laughing.
Looked at you. Like,
they were like, who is this kid? What is he doing? And it's like, that's crazy to me, like that I did that. And it was like, it brought a smile to my face. Like, oh my God.
So hang on a minute. Why don't you do that when I walk into the lecture?
I'm gonna start doing that.
Don't do it.
I'm gonna start doing that from now on.
So
y'all don't get it.
No, I mean, well, oddly, when I was in school, which was a long time ago, you used to do that too. So it's not completely alien.
Yeah,
but
it's not. It's really not.
No,
it's
I can't
just
imagine
so
it happening
it's
here.
like little things that are different. But one of the things I noticed is that everyone's much more patient. Even the kids, like I didn't like get like bullied or made fun of, at least to my face. They were very like, so many kids were like, oh, I'll show you to your locker. I had no idea how to use that locker thing.
Right.
Oh my God, it took me like a year to figure that out. The people would do it for me.
Really?
It's like, oh no, I got you. Like, or like just things I spoke English. I mean, I took classes in Iran, Dubai. Everyone speaks English. I mean, in Iran, everyone almost speaks English, just because they take the classes and they just know it. But like it was like a little harder, because there's a person with their country accent talking to you, and I'm like, what did you just say to me? And it was like I genuinely couldn't understand sometimes. And
so the accent.
People would break it down for me,
right?
And they wouldn't be like, oh, this kid. Like they were patient, so patient, and that's like one of the things I'm like so grateful for, because it could have been anyone.
Yeah.
That like brought me down for it, or like, this kid, why is he here right now? Obviously,
you're bright and you're talented. When you graduated from the high school in Clover, is that Clover High School?
Clover High School. Okay.
Yes. It's all right.
Excuse
it happens.
Me, sorry,
it's okay. So when you graduated from Clover High School, where else did you apply for university, or was it just the University of South Carolina?
Well, first I wanted to go to Clemson.
Okay.
That was just like a thing.
Because it's up there.
Yeah, it's not even because of that. It's from the beginning. They're like, oh, Clemson's a really good school. Okay. Like that's where like people that are smart go. I was like, oh, I have to get in that. And this is actually like a crazy turn of events. I'm a musician, and I've always played music, and it's a big part of my life. And we had a USC band camp here. With what it wasn't like the marching band, it was the concert bands and the wind ensembles.
Gotcha.
And I remember this like it was like a year ago almost. We went and watched the wind ensemble perform, and I'm not even a music major, but when I saw them perform, I literally called my mom. I'm like, I'm getting into school like just to be in that band, and I will be in that band.
So you came to the University of South Carolina.
That was like one of the main, because I'm like, okay, I'm trying to go into orthodontics.
Okay.
So it doesn't really matter what
right.
university I really go to. It's about like what I feel like I will feel more welcomed, or I like.
And you felt very welcomed at the university.
That was awesome.
Okay.
It was hearing them play. I had chills the entire time. I was like, I'm getting in there.
What instrument do you play?
I play piano and oboe.
Do you really?
Yes.
Okay. So you ended up coming to the University of South Carolina, this kind of warm, welcoming atmosphere,
yes.
right? What you know, when you're, I mean, I realize that students tend to be limited to campus very often, but you do get out and about and you see the town and
yes, I have my little bike.
You got your bike, all right.
Yeah.
So you get around. How's all of those very positive feelings that you had when you first went to Clover and then saw the university, have those feelings remained? Is the South growing on you?
All my alarms are going off.
It's all right. Don't worry about it. Is the South growing on you? Or are you thinking, hang on a minute, when I graduate, I need to go somewhere else?
I really want to live in Europe.
Yep.
I really want to have my own house in Italy. But that's like...
Don't we all?
That's like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that's that's like when I turn like 42 when I'm rich.
Right.
I feel like I need to be here.
Yeah.
And just because I've gone, I don't want to be in a comfort zone my entire life. Like I want to be out.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with the state to me. Like it's not like, oh, I hate the state. It's just that I don't want to stay in the same place my whole life because I feel like I'm not going to see everything that I need to see.
You know, it's interesting you say that. We did an interview recently with somebody who grew up in South Carolina, has roots really deep here. And then he ended up going to Duke and then Washington and Lee, then DC and then New York City. Then he came back. And he came back because, for various reasons, but he felt as though he had to leave in order to come back, right? Like the comparison. It's that itinerant impulse, and then you come back to the home. Do you think of South Carolina as your home? Or are you still in Tehran?
No, actually.
Mentally.
This is like even like a random comparison, but like I just realized like about like 2 years ago, I like started thinking in English. And like I speak Farsi,
sure.
And I was like, oh my God, like I have like sometimes I'd be speaking English, and I'm like, oh, I'm speaking English right now. And it feels like, oh, this is the norm for me.
Yeah.
So like when I came here first, I was like, oh, I miss my house, and my house is in Clover.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, if you live in a place for 6 years, you make friends for 6-7 years.
Right.
That's gonna be your new home.
Yeah.
Unless you're just stuck up and you're like, oh my God, I hate this place, and I can't imagine me only thinking about Iran if I'm gonna be living here, because that would mean I don't have my doors open
Gotcha.
to things, to ideas. Like if I'm like stuck there, then I won't be able to go here. You know what I'm saying?
I do. Do your mum and dad like it here?
Yes. Actually, my mom, she loves her family. Most of our family is in Iran.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the person in our family that would instantly go back would be my mom, most definitely.
All right.
But not that she has anything against here at all. But I do too. I love my country. I love everything about it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And so like if I get the chance to go back again, I will totally go back.
I understand.
But yeah.
But it's been a very pleasant experience, and will continue to be a very pleasant experience for you living in the South, right?
I'm having fun. Yeah.
Good. Amir, thank you so much for popping by and telling us your Southern story.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, we're here with one of these Southern Studies just chats, right? I'm here with another student and her dad here on Parents Weekend, Families Weekend here at University of South Carolina. We got Anna Matson, right? And then your name, sir?
Jim Matson.
Jim Matson. And Mr. Matson, you and I were chatting in my office, and you grew up on US 220, right north, about an hour north of Greensboro, North Carolina, right on the Virginia line. And you grew up in Aiken, right?
Yes, sir.
Aiken, right here in South Carolina. Very, very good. So y'all have people. Y'all are Carolinians, just like I am. You're Southerners, just like I am, right? I grew up in small town Eastern North Carolina, and so here I am in South Carolina too. So, you know, y'all across the generations are kind of a reflection of me, you know, this North Carolina, South Carolina connection. Let me ask you then, Mr. Matson, how long ago did you move to Aiken?
It's going to be 17 years now, I guess.
17 years? And so were you born in Aiken then? Or?
I was born in Mechanicsville, Virginia.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, so my parents originally met in Washington, D.C., and then they moved, you know, out to Virginia when I was born, and then moved down to South Carolina.
We're Civil War trenches in our yard where you were born.
Civil War trenches? Wow, how about that?
Yeah.
How about that? Well, wonderful. Let me ask you this question, because I actually got a really interesting phone call about 2 weeks ago. It was a reporter from the Raleigh paper who wanted to talk to me about North Carolina, South Carolina differences. This was ahead of the UNC-USC ball game, right? So, and it was funny because I said, it's interesting you called me, Bo, because you don't know nothing about my life history, but I'm kind of the guy to talk about this. Because, like you, Mr. Matson, I went to NC State, and thus I hate Chapel Hill with the, you know,
and the rule is, and the final rule is, and whoever plays Carolina, which was UNC.
Correct. You know, you'll love this. My daddy and I had a conversation when I was a little boy. I was 7 or 8, and there was like UNC was playing ball, and they were on TV, and Daddy says, "Boy, you see them people wearing baby blue?" "Yes, sir." He says, "Boy, that's the Tar Heels." And I say, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "Son, we pull for the Russians before we pull for them." And you know, I still feel that way, if I'm being honest with you. But nevertheless, this man from the Raleigh paper called me and wanted to chat with me about the difference between North Carolina and South Carolina. So I guess a Southern story that I would be interested in hearing y'all tell is, what are the differences and similarities between the two Carolinas? Because across the generations within your own family, you kind of have some sort of history about this.
He cannot say the name of Beaufort, South Carolina correctly. He consistently
Beaufort,
pronounces
right?
it Beaufort.
Yeah.
Beaufort.
They are different cities. I am aware that it is Beaufort in North Carolina. However, it is Beaufort here.
That's true. It is true.
I do think that is the small annoyance that does pop up occasionally.
Do y'all have barbecue fights in your house?
No, we just know that vinegar is the way to go.
That's true. I am a vinegar convert.
You know, I'm not going to disagree with you. Although no, I might be telling too much here. But my wife is from Lexington, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Right? So you know how they eat stuff there, near the Red Slaw and all that. You grew up right outside of the Triad, so you know you're aware of all this.
Fuzzy Barbecue was the local. Yeah.
Well, so I grew up down east North Carolina. It's vinegar all the way.
Yeah.
And the closest I think my wife and I ever got to getting divorced had to do with arguments about barbecue.
Yeah.
So when we moved here to South Carolina, we settled on mustard barbecue as a way to kind of heal the marriage, right? To kind of get the rift away.
Right.
We each have our preferences, our deep, true preferences, but we can settle on this as a compromise, right? So that's that.
Well, I'll say one of my favorite sort of cultural stories. I went to graduate school in California, and I was feeling homesick and being gone. I went to a fair, and they had barbecue. I was like, "Oh, it'd be great! I'll have some barbecue. I'll feel good." And they handed me a piece of meat with ketchup on top of it. And there has never been a point in my life that I have been lower. I've been fired from jobs. I've had other things happen, but there's never been a point in my life where they handed me this. I'm like, where's the barbecue?
Yeah, I mean, like, if I'm in that kind of situation, I'm looking for a short period to take a long walk of. There you go.
Sorry, we're interrupting.
Yeah, no, that's exactly that. That's exactly
but how
that.
food is such a big draw.
It really is. It kind of shapes and defines how we understand ourselves in so many ways.
Yeah.
And people make such a big deal out of Southern food.
Right.
And I've talked to people from up north, and they say, you know, what is this? Why are y'all so obsessed with this being better than everything else? Well, one, it is.
Yeah.
And I got another story about that. I'll tell you in a minute. But at the same time, it tells stories of who we are and where we're from. And it's, you know, I've told students of mine before, if you eat something like Brunswick stew, you're eating the story of 3 or 4 cultures
Yes.
in one bowl that came together to make this place called the South. You know.
And those are the things that were, in my youth, were such a big thing. Such strong memories of going and making stews overnight. In fact, given my age, we were making Brunswick stew the night we found out who shot JR.
Oh my goodness, my goodness.
But those moments of being there and people drawn together, and food doing it, or with, grandma making, peaches and things like that, or doing butter beans on the porch and sitting there and playing.
Every summer to this day, it's like it ain't summer until I get like some black eyed peas to sit there and shell. Like you get the butter beans and something like that, and you shell them. And I don't know if y'all and y'all's family did this like we did, but it's you walk to the porch, and somebody hands you a bowl full of them to shell, and there's a bucket in the middle of the porch.
Yes, sir.
And you just sit there and shell and talk and throw them in there.
We had the required porch swing.
Yeah.
The required porch swing while that was happening.
And that kind of stuff I think is especially important in our family because, you do agriculture, your job is local food. And so thinking about like the history and culture of local food, the things that are, grown here, that's always been pretty major in our family.
Yeah.
And what was it like growing up in Aiken?
I loved it. I did an exchange year in Germany, so I definitely got to see, some how it was like in other parts of the world. But like I chose to go to the University of South Carolina because I wanted to stay close to home. I love Aiken. I think it is absolutely gorgeous. I love the horse culture. I love the people. I think it is my favorite place on earth.
Do you ride?
I do not ride. I went to a horse camp once when I was 11? Something like that. And I got bucked off that horse more than I count. I was not good at it, not a pleasant experience. But a lot of my friends did have horses, and like being like I love going around like the horse part of town, like all the dirt roads and because there's part of what makes Aiken so cool is because it's a horse town. A lot of the natural areas have been preserved.
Oh wow!
Because those, especially the Hitchcock Foundation, they wanted areas to ride their horses in.
Yes.
So like the horse history of Aiken has like preserved so much else of what is really fantastic about it.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Let me ask you about. So you did your senior year of high school in Germany? Junior year. Okay. Well, let me ask you about that. So here you are, a girl from Aiken, deep roots in the South. Your daddy's from, right north of Greensboro in North Carolina. You got all these roots. You were born in Virginia, Civil War battlefield trench, in your front yard, right? Literally. You are deeply a part of that. What was it like being in Germany? This is the reason I'm asking you this in some ways. Because Europeans have this idea that Americans have no history. Yes. Despite the fact we're, you've had European peoples and African peoples living in this, continent for 400 years, right?
Yes.
And not to say anything about the Native Americans who were here, for thousands of years. But Europeans have this idea that we have no history as Americans. But I think as Southerners, we realize we do have history, right? Even the things we're just talking about with family, it's all about that. So what was it like to be in Germany and see a place that has history versus... And compare and contrast that to back home?
Well, I think it was definitely, like, the strangest part was having to reconcile my identity as an American, because that was not something that I had thought of myself as. Like, I'd never been confronted with the fact that, like, I'm American. Like, to me, I've always been, I'm Southern. I'm from South Carolina. And then, sort of being grouped in with, a lot of other people in my exchange program were, from way up north or way out west, and being like, oh, you guys are all the same. You're Americans. And that was very troublesome to me.
So the Germans would say that, the person from California... The person from California and the person from, Ohio were the same as you because they're all Americans, right?
So it was definitely trying to, like, institute and remind people that, like, hey, there are these cultural differences within the U.S. I think it is hard for Europeans to conceptualize how large and diverse America is. I think they have a very specific idea from the media of like, this is what American high school looks like.
Sure.
What do you mean that you have people who ride tractors to school and things? Like it was like those kinds of things that they hadn't thought of before. That was definitely interesting. And I think talking about, sort of my culture shocks as well. Like I found a lot of comfort in there's a decent West African immigrant population in Germany. So when I would go to major cities, I would seek out like West African restaurants because they had a lot of the Southern comfort food I was missing.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. And that gets back where we were talking about a moment ago. You know, when you eat Southern food, you're eating this like melange
Yeah.
of all these different cultures coming together. So it's these people from West Africa who aren't from the U.S., aren't from South Carolina, none of that at all. Nevertheless, you go get jollof or something.
Exactly.
Right? That's going to seem more like some food you get here in South Carolina than, you know, schnitzel or something like that you get in Germany.
And that was something that I never managed to explain properly to, you know, my new German friends. Like, they never understood why, to me, you know, this Ghanaian food, that was home. Because this is red beans and rice, this is onions, this is everything that I have all the time at home. And I could only get it when I would go to these West African restaurants. Because they don't conceptualize that part of our history the same way I do.
Amazing.
Well, and when you came home, your first meal was grits from
Oh my God, yes.
Marchand
Marchand Mill. Thank you.
Okay. last thing, I got to say this. I know y'all run out of time, but you know, I want to keep this short, and I want to respect y'all's time, and thank y'all for dropping in today.
Of course.
But earlier today, in a previous conversation, previous one of his interviews, my boss, who's an Englishman, and a young woman and her mother, who are from New Hampshire, they came here and they were doing grits dirty.
No!
Let's talk about grits
That
for
make you be
just a
just
moment.
below barbecue. That make you just below barbecue.
That
on
number
the,
one for
on the-
me.
yeah, number one for you.
I mean, let's be honest. Y'all, I'm going to ask you, Anna.
Yes.
And I can share mine too, but how do you make your grits? Because we want the people that listen, a lot of people that listen to this
Of
are not
course.
from the South.
Yes.
They ain't got no idea how to make grits right. So how do you make grits, Anna Massey?
Well, obviously, I am a slow-cooked grits person. I do think that
Well,
instant
is there
grits
another way to do
are
anything?
a disgrace, of course. So I love a good, it needs to be on the stove for minimum an hour, up to is preferable.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Loaded with butter. It needs to be just pure fat. Cheese, I love a green onion, salt, pepper, garlic. Keep it simple.
Oh, that's also good. Now, here's what I do. It's like, you know, I'm doing mine, and like I'm stirring constantly. Like, you know, I'm getting like a
Yes.
forearm workout. You got to stir
Absolutely.
constantly. Because if it gets stuck to the bottom of the pan, it's ruined.
ruined.
Oh, they never
It's
use
ruined.
that pan again.
You know,
Yeah.
you can't use it again. So you got to stir constantly. Get that whisk, you wear that whisk out. And but the thing that I do is on the other burner on the side is I'm cooking my sausage.
Of course.
And then when my sausage is done, I pour the sausage and all the grease in there too. And so you get that in there too, and you got to have the right salt. But that little bit of garlic powder, that does do right.
Yes.
And then, you know, what you do is I take, you know, like some pepper jack or like some sharp cheddar. You shred all that up. You get about a cup and a half with that, and you stick it in there, right? And then you start cracking pepper. And you
Absolutely.
crack pepper until the entire top is turned black from the pepper in there. And you do that. And then you stir it, and then you turn it real low and you just let it simmer for that last long time. And then right before you put it on, you take about a tablespoon and a half, maybe in 2 tablespoons, feeling how froggy you're feeling, of butter, and you drop that in until
Yes.
it all goes in.
Absolutely.
And you know how the grits are done right is when you let it sit for a second in the bowl, and it gets that like stiff top on top. That's when
Yes.
you know you've done it right.
Of course.
And I think our friends who say they don't like grits just ain't never ate no good grits.
I think that people have had like Hampton Inn instant grits and assume that is what grits taste
Or
like.
polenta.
Or polenta. What is it with the Northerners with polenta?
Or they've had grits at Waffle House, which are not what you go to Waffle House for.
No.
You get the hash browns at Waffle House.
Yes.
And the grits at Waffle House
Have
only
been there for 4 days.
and they only taste good at 3 in the morning.
Well,
After-
because they're there to absorb the alcohol.
Yes,
when
exactly.
You
Yes.
After about 14 beers in, that's the only way those grits are
Yeah.
palatable, right? You know, and you know maybe like the cooks, you know, had some cigarette ash in them or something, right? You know.
Yeah.
Anyways, Matson's, on that wonderful note, and now I'm hungry because I ain't eaten lunch today. I thank y'all for stopping by, and I thank y'all for joining us here and telling y'all's Southern stories here on Take on the South.
Thanks so much.
Thank y'all.
That was our Take on the South. Let us know yours. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at U of SC South. Take on the South is produced by Matt Simmons of the Institute for Southern Studies. Special thanks to Professor Dave Garner of the University of South Carolina School of Music for composing our music. Tune in next time for another Take on the South.